Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell, author of 22 books, Marine Corps veteran, founder of the Second Amendment March, proud father of 7, grandfather to 20 and counting, and as a special bonus, I'm also madly in love with my own wife. My priorities in life are God, family, and country, in that order, and I hereby promise to never compromise in my convictions. I may go broke, but I'll never go woke. And joining me today is my beautiful, wonderful co-host, my wife, Sara. Sara, welcome back to the Home Defense Show.
Thank you. It is great to be here, as always.
Well, if you weren't here, that would be a bad thing because we live in the same house.
Well, yes, but I don't have to be on the show. I could be downstairs doing something in the kitchen or working with the kids or doing blah, blah, blah.
You have to be on the show,
fun.
honey.
Yeah.
You just
It's
do. All right. So what's up with you?
Well, before we get too far into the show, we must thank our sponsors, the United States Concealed Carry Association, ShootingClasses.com, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range, and Trinity Training and Security. We appreciate our sponsors.
All right. You didn't answer my question. What's up with you? That's a blank check. You can answer any way you want.
Oh, man.
Come on. Total freedom.
Total freedom. Well, I'm loving the weather. You can go outside. There's no smoke today.
Yeah.
Smoke alert was low. It was great. Yep. Yeah, no, life is great. We're kind of fighting a cold, which is kind of annoying in the summer. I want to go out and
Well,
meet
you
with
have
people.
a cold.
Yeah, I got a cold. Our daughter had it last week, and
Yeah.
now I got it.
I hope you don't infect me.
Well, don't get too close.
Little chance of that.
Life
we
is good.
we
God is
picked
good.
our first zucchini today of the year.
Yes, we
Wasn't
did.
that exciting?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, and I am so excited about the novel that I'm working on. I'm 51,000 words into it. I'm thinking it'll probably be another 10,000 words, but I'm at that point in a novel, writing this novel, where I know how it's going to end. I know the chapters that I have to write to bring it to conclusion. And after 50,000 words, you kind of bond to the characters.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know, okay, I'm going to be saying goodbye to these characters soon, but I really don't want to say goodbye because they've become my friends. I don't know if you understand that or not.
Well, I'm not sure if you heard it, but downstairs I said I didn't want the book to end. And then you said something. And then Amethyst said, well, there's always a sequel, Dad.
Well,
So
I don't know
it
if there'll be
seems to be kind of unanimous because only the three of us were in the house at the time.
Yeah, I don't know what I would write for a sequel on this one. The title of the
Finish the first
novel
one.
is The Do-Over, and I love it. But I don't know. It's just kind of sad. I tend to slow down when I come to the end of a novel, especially if I like the characters. And I always like the characters, because if you don't like the characters, why write a book about those people, right?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I just love it. This is unlike anything that I've ever written before. And we'll talk about it more after it comes out on the market.
Okay.
All right. Now, I have a quote. And the quote is, now I purposely did not read this to you because I want your spontaneous response.
Oh dear.
I want spontaneity
dear.
here. Don't make anything up. Just right.
Like as if I could.
I want
not
it
that
to be honest. Give me your honest gut feeling on this quote. Hope. It is the only thing stronger than fear. A little hope is effective. A lot of hope is dangerous. A spark is fine as long as it's contained.
You're quoting President Snow now, are we?
Ah, you remembered that?
You creep me out hearing his words come out of your mouth.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's like...
Hope is a good thing, and it
Yeah,
doesn't need
yeah,
to be
yeah.
controlled. God's already got it under control. It's
I
enough.
didn't think you'd remember that.
Oh, I like that movie.
I like that movie too.
And we watch it.
I don't like President Snow.
We watch it a lot.
Well, we watch it about 3 times a year, something like that. The whole series.
Yeah.
I think we do. I love it.
Yes.
But the thing is, when an evil despot or, some tyrant, some evil person, when they talk, they mix the truth in with a lie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he starts out with hope. It is the only thing stronger than fear. And I think that's right.
I'm afraid I can't answer that. I feel like we need to bring a priest in on this one.
Well-
Father Gregory would have an answer for you.
Hope is pretty strong.
Hope is strong.
Hope is what keeps you from giving up. When you lose hope, that's when people commit suicide. That's when they give up and they live a miserable life.
I know that there's in the church there's a lot of talk about fearing God and keeping that fear organized so that you only fear Him, and so that's why I was kind of pausing on that, because I think that the order of your fears is very important. I mean, you're not really going to lose hope if your main fear is displeasing God. I don't think that you're going to lose hope.
Well,
in
President
that kind of way.
Snow thought he was God.
Yeah, well, he was mistaken on that point.
Well, whatever you think about President Snow,
I like his taste in roses, though.
well, he was wise. In
Cunning.
Cunning, yes, cunning is a better word. He was cunning. A little hope is effective. A lot of hope is dangerous. He was smart. He knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Give the people just enough hope so that they don't give up.
Right.
Because they have to serve our interests. They have to mine our coal and catch our fish and saw down our lumber, all of that stuff.
Right.
And boy.
Well, and he needed them to keep producing people and to live peacefully in the land, but
Yeah.
then he was going to exploit them right down to harvesting their children. I mean, it was just
Absolutely.
an awful setup.
Well, you spoiled this for me. You knew who it was.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, well. Well, next time. I will surprise you next time.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, it's time for the news now.
All right.
What kind of news article do we have today, Sarah?
We have got one that's a little tricky. Our flock cameras next. Supreme Court rules against police using sprawling cell phone location data. Columbus, Ohio. The U.S. Supreme Court's decision restricting law enforcement's ability to use sprawling cell phone location data is bringing to light questions about the legitimacy of flock safety cameras. Police use geofence warrants to get location data of suspects' electronic devices. We just hope that it's not a tool that is removed from our tool belt, Ohio Fraternal Order of Police President J. McDonald said. These can help solve crimes when police run out of options, he added. A new Supreme Court decision is shining a spotlight on police technology. We need to make apprehensions in those cases as quickly as possible to prevent other violent crimes from occurring, he said. But these search every device in an area, starting from casting a wide net to more in-depth data. Case Western Reserve University criminal law professor Mike Benza said, law enforcement will go to Google with this administrative warrant, saying, give us all of the IP addresses of any connected device in this area around this time when a crime or some other instance of interest has occurred, Benza said. From there, police are able to expand the data and look deeper into specific accounts and addresses to get identity information. The Supreme Court is making it harder or even impossible to get them. The justices ruled that these warrants could constitute an unreasonable search and seizure because oftentimes citizens' data is scooped up and investigated even if they have no connection to the crime. I don't believe my cell phone number being found in a particular location is particularly troublesome to me if I haven't committed any crimes, McDonald said. But just because someone else committed a crime, it doesn't mean that there is no longer a right to privacy, Benza said. This could help prevent a surveillance state, I asked the professor. Yes, which is exactly the concern that the court is addressing. Can technology basically eliminate the Fourth Amendment protection against an unreasonable search and seizure? Benza responded. Police would still be able to get this data as long as they could prove it in a probable cause warrant, not an administrative one. The latter have easier standards to obtain. But this ruling worries law enforcement for another reason: flock camera surveillance. Flock cameras are extremely important, McDonald said. I certainly hope that this does not have an impact on that. The cameras, typically used as license plate readers, have popped up all over the state and country. They are facing increasing pushback, especially online and at city council meetings. Flock No was formed last year when the city of Cleveland wanted to push through the council an emergency proposal to expand Flock's footprint beyond license plate readers without giving other companies a chance to bid. I am not comfortable knowing that my movements over the last month can be reconstructed in very great detail at any given time, Flock Nose Bryn Adams said. Benzit explains that flock cameras themselves are likely not violating privacy policies if they are just used for plate reading. They could, however, depending on how much data the company is collecting and how agencies are using it. The Shaker Heights Police Department changed its policy regarding flock license plate readers after data revealed that numerous outside agencies were using the system for immigration-related searches. We recently obtained public records chronicling all Shaker's license plate reader data requests from December 20, 2025 through the end of April 2026. The data set shows that Shaker Heights data was accessed more than 700,000 times, but Shaker police accessed it only 1,016 times. The majority, 693,573 searches, were done by other law enforcement agencies in Ohio and across the country. The reason was listed for each search. Immigration was listed 282 times. ICE was mentioned 32 times. Shaker Heights said that the city now prohibits searches for immigration, and any outside agencies accessing Shaker Heights cameras must abide by the new rules. If it's used to track you, it now starts to look more like the geofence and the location data, Benza said. On June 17, the Cleveland City Council Safety Committee voted 3-1 against renewing the flock safety contract for the city's license plate readers. However, they are expected to have another meeting to discuss this in mid-July. The flock camera debate could make its way to the justice's desk in the coming years. In the meantime, Ohioans are taking flock into their own hands. Police in Parma are trying to find out who took down their flock cameras. 2 people who covered their faces sawed the surveillance cameras down.
All right. What the flock is going on here, huh? I know you didn't want me to say that, but I've been biting my tongue. I've been waiting to say that.
Okay,
the whole time. That was a long article.
That was a long article. Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, they don't even know what a flock camera is. So
why don't you tell us?
A flock camera is an automated license plate reader manufactured by Flock Safety, mounted on street corners and highways. These cameras use AI to instantly log the license plate, vehicle make, color, and unique features of every passing car. They are primarily used by law enforcement and neighborhood associations to solve and deter crime. They capture high-contrast, time-stamped images of vehicles and use machine learning to extract details like state tags, scratches, bumper stickers, and roof racks. If a car passes that is tied to a stolen vehicle report, an Amber Alert, or a local hot list, the system instantly alerts police. I don't know what your opinion is on this, but I see a lot of good that can come from it, but I also see some dangers here. If we end up with a surveillance state, if we end up with a dishonest government, and a lot of people would argue, well, we already have a dishonest government. This is only as good as the individual police officers are. How are they going to use this? I mean, if it helps them solve a crime, get back a stolen vehicle or get back a kidnapped little girl, that's fantastic. And
I do not want to tie their hands. Their job is quite hard enough. So, I want to support
I understand that. But it doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy.
Right.
It really doesn't.
Because we've seen the government go too crazy.
Exactly. There is potential for abuse here. And you remember when Obama was in office, Joe Biden was in office. I mean, they just, militarized the Department of Justice. And they used every tool at their disposal to try and frame people, conservative people, parents that went to PTA meetings. They did all this stuff, and they used every tool at their disposal. When I have an honest government, when I have honest police, yeah, okay, I feel fine about that. But I know we're not always going to have people that I trust in government. So I think half the people out there, it's like when we have someone conservative in power, they'll say, okay, yeah, I trust him with his information. When we have someone liberal in power, the conservatives will say, oh, I don't trust him.
Mm-hmm. Probably vice versa for the other people, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know if the Supreme Court can come up with some type of a middle ground. They seem to be finding a lot of middle ground lately
Well, I hope they can
in their
find it, yeah.
rulings. Maybe they can, but I don't know. I'm just very careful, very leery about the government monitoring its citizens, because it's like, okay, George Orwell 1984 stuff. It makes me nervous. Really does.
Right. Right. I don't want them watching all the places that I go. That seems kind of...
Yeah.
I mean, if they're just taking the picture of my license plate for, like, I was speeding or I ran through a toll booth to, and didn't pay my toll or whatever, like that, it at least makes sense. How do we make sure that's all it's used for? Like, at some point we say, this is all I want you to use it for, and then we hope that that's what they do. But
well, they'd have to make a law.
I mean, kind of like with the voting machines, like you kind of put in your vote and you just hope that they treat it honestly. You don't really know.
You're right. Yeah.
There's a lot of distrust that we kind of have to just trust that we do our part and they do their part. And
well, we're going to have to watch this, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's going to come up again. It'll end up at the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
We'll
and
just
probably
see.
Somebody will get watched too closely, and that'll swing it back the other way, too.
In the meantime, speaking about surveillance, okay, we are interviewing Trevor Degroote next segment. He is the owner of Trinity Training and Security. He also works as a private investigator, and he's going to tell us all about what it's like to be a private investigator.
That sounds really fun.
Well, everyone, the normal person has a romanticized view of what a PI does. It's like when I was a kid, I used to watch Perry Mason.
Oh, no, I didn't see him. Okay.
And, the private PI that worked for him was named Drake, I think. And, you just have this romanticized Humphrey Bogart type view and flavor of what it's like to be a private investigator. Trevor's going to tell us what it's really like to be a private investigator. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right. That's going to be great. While we're on our break, make sure and check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range, and Trinity Training and Security.
In the meantime, God bless and stay safe, because we will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Hey there. Yeah, you. It's time to level up your skills. Check out shootingclasses.com and explore a wide range of training options. With more than 50 types of classes to choose from, beginner to advanced, concealed carry to medical training, online sessions, and even non-live fire courses, there's something for everyone. Just enter your zip code, use the filters to narrow your search, and find the perfect class for you. This site has all the details: instructor bios, class info, requirements, available dates, and the option to register, all in one place. It's that simple at shootingclasses.com.
In today's world, safety and preparedness are more important than ever. At Trinity Training and Security, we offer comprehensive training for your peace of mind. Whether you're obtaining your concealed pistol license, mastering CPR and first aid, or engaging in scenario-based training, we've got you covered. We look forward to working with you in one of our classes or bringing the class to your church, school, or business. Need security for an event? Protecting your assets? Our team provides private security, close protection, media crew escorts, high security terminations, and more. Always with discretion and professionalism. With Trinity, safety is more than a service. It's a commitment.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me, and I'd like to help you do those things. avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.
The mere sound of his voice makes women swoon and men storm the gates of hell. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show. All right, folks, now we have got Trevor Degroote on the line. Trevor is the owner of Trinity Training and Security, and he's also a private investigator. And first off, welcome to the Home Defense Show, Trevor.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Skip. Glad to be back.
Thing is, Trevor, everyone has this romanticized view of what it's like to be a private investigator, Dick Tracy, who was that guy on Perry Mason that was the PI, something Drake, I think. But, and I have the same thing. I just finished writing a detective novel, and I'm sure it was just totally outrageous, but people kind of like that. But I don't think that's what it's really like to be a PI. First, tell us, what have you been doing as far as private investigator work?
Yes, I'm sure we're not looking to have a big regulatory talk here, but just to kind of be super clear, Trinity Training and Security currently is a licensed private security outfit, and we will in the near future be adding an agency license for PI work in the state of Michigan. I won't get into all the ins and outs in that, but as of right now, I'm an employee for a different outfit, which I won't name on the show because I haven't cleared that with them. But so essentially, what we do, that outfit and me as an employee, what we do is primarily things like violations of no competes. We do sometimes get into like some custody, child support investigations, but at the end of the day, it's whatever the attorney needs somebody to investigate so that they can further build documentation, evidence to make their case. So in terms of what we do, it really varies, and it's very situational. Like in some cases, GPS trackers can be utilized, but kind of the bread and butter of the work is kind of boots on the ground, if you will, getting out there and being incognito, to use a Google word, and being undetected while you're fully detecting the individual you're watching, gaining documentation, information for whatever it is that the attorney's trying to prove and gather information on. So that's typically through low visibility surveillance, sometimes in order to gather information, which we'll probably get into some of the, I guess, tactics and techniques or strategies. But it really varies from assignment to assignment or detail to detail. And so I'm sure we'll dig into maybe some specifics.
So you're a spy.
Essentially, I guess we could call it that. Yes.
Well, a spy in the positive sense, I think. So your primary clients, I guess, are attorneys.
Correct. Yep. And that also varies, whether it's more of a domestic type deal. If we're talking about custody dispute, child support, one party's trying to prove why they need what they need from the other party. In that case, that would be that type of attorney. We also do some work for defense attorneys, with homicide investigations, that kind of thing. So with working for the defense, it's typically trying to prove the client's innocence or something along those lines. And then, with more business oriented attorneys, that's where the non-compete violation stuff comes in, where, one party has violated their non-compete and the other party is suing them. So they want to prove that they're in violation. So that's where we come in to get documentation on all that.
It sounds kind of fun to me. I mean, you ever have to do any like acting or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the situational answer really comes in is it depends. So to kind of hit on that romanticized view of Magnum PI and that kind of thing, we're not typically out there in suits and Corvettes and that kind of thing with palm trees in the background.
Mhm.
Kind of day to day is a lot more surveillance from your vehicle, or you may follow somebody through a grocery store or on a job site if they're unable to work, like a work comp claim, something like that. You may follow them and have your phone up to your head like you're on the phone with your video camera going, collecting data. So it very much depends from thing to thing. But in terms of acting, playing a role, that's where the techniques of how you get information can come in. You may find yourself surveilling somebody on a job site near a Subway, and then you go over to the Subway restaurant and chat with the employees about typical traffic and how often they see that work truck, or you may have to prove that an individual is working, when they're working for cash under the table, but they're telling the courts they don't make any money because they can't get out of bed. You may have to go and talk with an individual and introduce yourself however you'd like to, and build that rapport and get information organically. So that definitely happens from time to time, where it's, you introduce yourself and you talk. And like, for example, one individual that, wasn't able to work supposedly and had applied for all the things. There's kind of a lot of moving pieces there in terms of honesty. You may have to go in and introduce yourself as an individual. If they, let's say, sell a certain product, maybe you go in and your play is to kind of play dumb on that product and have, all on recording and potentially video if you're able to do that. Get this whole conversation recorded and provide that documented proof that they did indeed, act as a customer service representative, sell you some product, and then turn over all those recordings and stuff to the attorney so they can use it for their purposes.
Is it true that all private investigators, they actually look like Tom Selleck then?
Yeah, that's definitely a requirement. So the typical bald head that if your viewers are watching right now, I got to grow my hair out, comb it over, slick it back, have a perfect little beard, a nice fancy suit. The Camaro is obligatory as well. Sometimes you can get away with a Corvette. Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, well, Trevor, it sounds to me like there's opportunity for weight gain, okay? Because you're talking about surveillance. Maybe you're sitting in your car a lot, just watching a house or a place of business or something. Not a lot of opportunity for home cooked meals, eating fast food. Do you ever find yourself struggling with that?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of those things where you learn how to get creative. It's kind of like anything where you're not going to have access to, your kitchen or even a microwave. So you kind of learn, all right, what can I do at a gas station that's not going to jump me up to 500 pounds, with beef jerky and some cashews or whatever. And
Hmm.
what can you make at home, like a fancy pasta salad with all the fixings in it, that can stay cold in your cooler in your car. It's kind of one of those things where I'm sure construction guys can relate, where it's like, hey, whatever goes in my cooler, that's what I can eat.
Yeah, 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 that makes sense. So, do you have any exciting stories that you can share about PI work?
Yeah, I won't get too specific, but it's different every day. That's what makes it a little bit fun, and you got to use your brains. So it's all critical thinking and creativity, but at the same time, you don't want them to be aware that they're being watched and followed, because that may change their behavior. They may, just lock up in the house for 30 days, because in some cases they're aware, or their attorney's aware that they're being sued or that they're going to be going to court, and that's usually a pretty good indication to people that PIs may be involved. When they start seeing the same car in their parking lot, that kind of thing, over and over, they might start getting spooked. So, you always kind of got to be tactful in the way you do it. And that's where, like, one example would be some individuals in a non-compete violation where there was a team of us and we wound up essentially being on surveillance duty for about a week, maybe a little more. And we end up following these individuals all around the state, showing that they're working on these different sites that they gained in a less than honest fashion, and essentially stole them from the party that they had the non-compete with. And so that one, for example, was very very dynamic, a lot of movement. If you just kind of think about it from a couple steps back of how are you going to follow these people over the course of a week, from site to site, probably totaling somewhere between 25 and 30 sites, and they're seeing the same vehicle over and over. So, something like that makes a good story where it's like you start getting creative. You maybe at some part in the detail, you end up talking with them as a potential customer, trying to gain some information about their business, their name, how they got started, where they came from. And throughout the course of that, you're finding out that they're citing, exactly where they came from, how they got their customers. And that's all adding up to not a good situation in terms of complying with that no compete. But at the same time, you're trying to remain anonymous. So now they've seen your face. Your car's been showing up at a lot of their job sites. So, in that instance, we go down to the rental car company and we swap out for some rental cars. Like a different instance more recently where individual has a service that they're offering out, and a part of that is some rentals. So you may pose as an individual that's just a customer trying to rent their service or their product, and so you do that cash transaction on recording, presenting yourself however you'd like to, and then you're playing a role. So now you take off with the heavy equipment, and you got to make it look good and make it look legit, and then you come back and return it. And all the while it's kind of fun, kind of exciting, because there's typically nothing exciting about just driving around the state, but it can be a little more fun when you know that you're remaining anonymous and kind of undetected, if you will. And yeah, definitely can be exciting from time to time. And when you're trying to follow somebody without them knowing you're following them and getting cars in between, and then you lose them for a second, but you have to use your brain on, okay, they're visiting these types of sites, so it's most likely that they're going to go here, here, or here. And that's where the decision making comes in a lot of times, where if you are kind of keeping your distance, have a car or two between you, and then they approach a Y intersection on the backside of a hill, what's the most likely direction to travel? Into the boonies or into town? And so you're kind of on the fly thinking like, 60-40, what's going to make the most sense here? And I don't see them anymore, so I'm going to go this way. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. And you're always weighing that. Are you close? Are you far? If you're close, you're not going to lose them, but you may kind of burn yourself. And if you're far, you may lose them for a second, but then you're going to have to get creative on how to find them again.
Yeah. So sometimes you have lost people before.
Yeah, it does happen. That's kind of a strategy preference thing, I guess. And I guess it's debatable. It really varies from firm to firm, investigator to investigator. The firm I work for kind of has a culture of it's better to lose them and find them again than to get too close and, tip them off. And then they call the police and say they're being followed by somebody. Then you talk with the police, you tell them what you're up to. They ask for a copy of that police report, and now they know exactly who you are and what you're up to.
Ah, okay. Have you ever been caught?
Yep, definitely. One time, but it did work out where it wasn't one of those things where it had to be me. We were able to swap somebody in. And part of that was this is kind of where the strategies can change, where that one was essentially an extended surveillance detail. The attorney had let us know this is going to be the last day, so get as much as you can. So in that case, you get a little closer, you get a little bit more I don't want to say aggressive, but a little bit more pushy, less in the background, a little more in the foreground. And then you kind of knew all the while that you were going to wind up getting burned, but it's the last day. It's kind of what do you got to lose? And then he had picked up that we were following him, called law enforcement. They talked with us. Everything, was fine because we're doing it properly and doing everything within the purview of licensing and that kind of thing. That's kind of another talking point is there's a lot of people that, just like any industry, may do things that are kind of outside of their lane, if you will. And that's kind of the key is it's kind of that old thing they tell you when you're a kid, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to hide type of deal.
Yeah.
So from a legal perspective, it's not an issue, but from a strategy, methodical perspective of getting what you want, in that case, it wasn't a big deal. It's kind of one of those things where boss understands because you were doing exactly what you were told. So getting burned in that instance, it was kind of to be expected, but what we didn't expect is at the end of the day, the attorney comes back and says, okay, let's do 3 more days. And it's like, we kind of just exposed ourselves a little bit. And it is
Well,
what it is
yeah.
when you get the directive to be a little closer and a little more pushy, and then that changes at the end of the day, kind of was what it was.
Yeah. So you've mentioned the phrase no compete several times. What exactly does that mean?
I'm not an attorney. I should be a little more well versed in this, but my understanding is that when an individual is working for an employer, there could be certain situations where they have to sign a no compete. I think it's fairly standard in a lot of industries now. So, for example, like in one case, they're not able to solicit or go after their employer's customers.
Ah,
So
okay. Yeah, that
the
makes sense.
the way that they violated. So typically, my understanding of non-competes is it's not as much of a keep you from working agreement, it's a keep you from stealing our customers agreement. So like for
Got
example,
it.
if you were to be engaged in a private security business, for example, and your employer had a set of customers and they had you sign a no compete, it's most likely that you're going to be okay. There may be a specified period, but it's most likely in most cases that you're going to be okay if you were to, say to move to Tennessee and start up your own firm and collect your own customers, no problem. But if you had a non-compete with that company that said that you won't solicit their customers, you won't steal their business, and you start up your own firm and you hit up every one of their customers and say, in cases that I've seen where they say, hey, we bought XYZ company. We're the new company anyways. We just need to have you fill out some paperwork, get you changed over as that transition's occurring. And then they essentially steal the customers by lying and saying that they're buying the company and just everything's going to stay the same, sign this paperwork and we'll continue on as normal. You would think customers would kind of raise their eyebrows, but they really don't. They're like, okay, sounds good, and they just sign the
Yeah.
paperwork and they're like, yeah, we're going through a name change. And then that puts them in violation of that non-compete because they've essentially stolen customers from their current employer or former, because a lot of times there's specified periods of like a year, 2 years, 3 years, something like that. So
What kind of tools do you guys use? I mean, I guess, binoculars, that kind of stuff. What do you do?
thankfully, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with technology, to be completely honest with you. But in terms of that type of work, it can be phenomenal. So some of it depends on you, what kind of tools you want to have the proper documentation for, like drones. That's probably no surprise that in this day and age, drones can be a super helpful tool if you've got the proper Part 107 license and everything. Everything from thermals, night vision, cameras, and those types of things can be very handy. Binoculars, like you said, might seem like outdated tech, but it's definitely not if you're maintaining a distance and you're trying to see things. Because at the end of the day, as a PI, everything you see and observe is going to be admissible by testimony, so you can testify as well. Always preferable if you get it on recording, and that's where some of this technology comes in handy too. Like I've got a set of digital binoculars. They're not the world's fanciest and best, but they have a night vision capability. You can get other models that have thermal capability as well. It's a little more spendy, maybe a someday item for me. But the like the digital binoculars, for example, you can get models that zoom in 16 times. All you got to do is reach up with your middle finger, hit the button, and it'll either snap a picture or start a video recording at 16 times zoom. So stuff like that can be very handy. Trackers are kind of case by case. Those can be sticky from state to state. A lot of times the kind of easy answer is if somebody owns the car that can give permission, the attorneys will typically sign off on that. So that's kind of another thing to know is any techniques and things we use, they always get run through the attorney. It's not one of those things where we're slapping a tracker on a vehicle and just that was kind of fully our decision. That kind of stuff never happens unless an attorney has signed off on it. They're kind of putting their name to it, saying that this is lawful, this is something we can do. So in certain cases, like again, non-competes, if you're driving around in a company truck and the company owner says, yeah, go ahead and slap a tracker on my vehicle, 9 times out of 10, the attorney's going to go for that. It's going to be pretty easy because the vehicle owner is asking you to put a tracker on his vehicle. Now, if somebody says, hey, I want you to watch Skip and see what he does, see what he's up to, maybe in that case, it's like your wife or your girlfriend hiring us, which at this point, they're probably the same thing for you.
That's true. Very
hopefully,
true.
Hopefully you never quit dating your wife. But
Yeah, that's right.
something like that is also going to be fairly easy if you're married because it's her vehicle too. Now, if it's
Yeah.
your girlfriend, that gets really sticky because if we are going to, girlfriend as client, she hires us, says put a tracker on Skip's car. I want to see if he's cheating on me or whatever. That's probably going to get denied in our state by the attorney because it gets very, very sticky. Our state in particular doesn't have specific tracker laws at this point. So they don't condone them and they don't ban them. So that kind of puts us squarely in a gray area where it's all up to the attorney every time. But we've kind of learned which ones are going to be a yes or a no.
Yeah. Well, that all makes sense. And the nice thing is all this stuff is all these tools, you go out and you buy them, they're tax deductible if you're doing the work. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I would say that like these are fun toys that you can play with in real time. That really appeals to me. Police versus private investigators. All right. Compare the two. What can one do and the other can't?
Well, that's a great question because it's to a degree it's almost apples to oranges because you're kind of talking about the difference between law enforcement and anything that's going to pertain to enforcing laws versus civil matters. Kind of in the law enforcement world, they'll kind of be, typical saying on something, on a body cam or whatever. Oh, that's a civil matter. You're going to have to contact your attorney, that kind of thing. That's really the space that we live in is the civil matters. So that's where the two really become apples to oranges, but where they can get similar is in some of the techniques and strategies and that kind of thing. But some of those differences would really be they're more so typically looking to affect an arrest or prove guilt or innocence or whichever direction they're kind of going on it. So it totally is kind of a perspective shift on we're not necessarily trying to prove criminal liability, we're trying to prove civil liability or lack thereof. So it kind of becomes just a different perspective. And then the techniques and tools can be very similar. Where it really differentiates is the fact that we're not typically dealing with criminal matters unless we're talking about like those homicide investigations where we're working with the defense. Like in that case, the defense attorney is got a client that they believe is innocent, and they're trying to get us to collect data to support that claim of innocence.
Yeah. Well, and you're working in the shadows. I mean, the cops they're driving a marked vehicle with strobes and you're working in the shadows. And if you're doing your job perfectly, they don't even know that you're there.
Right. Along with that, like if you were to compare to a detective with a law enforcement agency versus a private investigator, or actually some states will call them private detectives. So if you're looking at a public versus private detective, some of the big differences would be kind of in strategy too, where We had one, those homicides where the law enforcement goes in, they've got their identification, their clothing, they kind of start that way and they introduce themselves that way. And that's where you can start seeing a lot of the differences where they might come in as a formal investigation and try to get, witnesses to talk and that kind of thing because they're trying to prove guilt or lack thereof. It just kind of depends what their focus is on. In our case, on that same investigation, we're able to go in, and I guess I'm not saying what they can or can't do. I don't know how much of that is fully up to them, but in our case, if we are doing the same thing, we're working for the defense attorney, we're trying to prove innocence of his client. We don't necessarily have to go in there and say, hey, I'm Detective so-and-so with such and such agency. I can go in there and say, hey, my name is Trevor. Nice to meet you. Can I take you out for lunch sometime? I'd love to discuss a few things. And we can, and again, I'm not saying they can't do this too. So I don't want to sound like I'm saying we can do things they can't. But our more typical strategy is going to be to build that rapport, get that information organically. It's probably less likely that what we're doing is going to feel like an interrogation, whereas the second an individual becomes apprised that they're in the middle of a conversation with a detective from a law enforcement agency, their words are probably going to be that they got interrogated. We like to take the approach more of, I'm just getting to know you, you're getting to know me. And then at some point, I'm going to come forward with some questions that probably aren't going to be as direct, but they're going to be very direct in terms of intent of what I'm trying to get out of you and why. And you may not even understand why I'm asking about certain circumstances or things like that. So we do have the ability, I think, to be a little more, I guess, laid back, if you will, or a little more indirect. And typically our caseload is probably a lot less than a law enforcement agency detective. And we also are obviously getting paid by the hour. So depending on the client, we may be able to have more time. Whereas it's possible that a detective with a law enforcement agency may be pretty hard pressed to get this case off his desk so that he can get to the next one. Whereas with us, typically, if that were to be the case, then the firm owner can just hire another guy to work another case and, keep somebody like me on the same one for weeks. And that's kind of the other thing is we can also pick and choose very freely on, if I think taking this guy out for lunch and having a conversation about an incident that occurred in his business's parking lot, I can maybe do that on Tuesday, let it kind of simmer for a while, contact him again to go, if we've built that rapport, go fishing together, have some more organic conversation. I just don't think it's very likely that you'll see law enforcement agency detectives out there fishing with a suspect.
That sounds like a really nice perk to me, getting paid to go fishing.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
there've been camping trips where, you set up a campsite right next to the individual you're watching, and inside your tent you've got cameras and that kind of thing. Again, those strategies and techniques can vary widely. And that's where the creativity and critical thinking is very much going to come up to you. But same thing in those instances, now you're dealing with something that's a lot more personal. You're surveilling somebody while they're camping, you're surveilling somebody while they're fishing. So you do have to be careful, in my opinion, on how you do that and how tactful you are, because that may feel a lot more personal to that individual if they were to find out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. We're almost out of time, Trevor, but one more question. I know not just anybody can become a private investigator. What are the requirements, the qualifications?
Yeah, so that varies state to state, and firm to firm. So like in the state of Michigan, the, as they call it, agency owner has to meet a set of criteria with age and experience and that kind of thing. And then after that, once they've obtained that agency license, it's up to them to vet and train their staff in the way that they see fit and the way that they're going to comply with regulatory stuff and laws and things like that. So the state of Michigan really kind of leaves it up to the agency for the most part, as long as the owner meets that criteria, files all the proper paperwork, has all the proper insurances and that kind of thing, and then maintains proper quarterly reportings and that kind of stuff. Other states, though, every individual with the firm may need to undergo certain schooling or certifications that very much varies by state to state. But speaking more specifically to Michigan, in the state of Michigan, it's a lot more likely that an individual that may want to get into that kind of work is either going to have to meet those criteria themselves and start their own agency or firm. At that point, they could do it as an individual because it's the exact same application. It's just whether you want to be registered as an agency that can have employees or as an individual that's just going to do everything yourself. The main difference there is how much you're going to pay into insurance. And so that just kind of depends. If it was something you wanted to do on your own, and for a fact you're never going to want to work with anybody because you want to do everything yourself, well, then you could go out and get that individual license and do that, and your insurance is probably going to be a lot less. But if you want to scale this thing and serve as many customers as possible, then same criteria is going to need to be met, but you'll just click a different button when you apply for that license.
It sounds exciting to me, and you're going to have a lot of fun, I'm sure. We're out of time, but before you go, just tell us a little bit about Trinity Training and Security.
Yeah, so what we primarily do at this point is we are a private security agency. So if any events or executive protection, close protection, site security, that kind of stuff, that's really our bread and butter, is security work.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Trevor, thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show today.
Thank you, Skip. I appreciate it. Always glad to talk to you and appreciate being on the show.
All righty. All right, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's show. I've had a good time, and I hope you have too. Please don't forget to thank our sponsors, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range at centershotgunrange.com, shootingclasses.com to help you find the right trainer for your needs, and United States Concealed Carry Association. For all your self-defense needs, go to uscca.com. All right, I've written 20-plus books, and they're all available on Amazon.com in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. This week, check out my book, Church and State. It's a geopolitical thriller novel. I think you'll like it. And if you want training from me in person, then check out Midwest Tactical Training at shootingclasses.com. Please join us again next week for all your home defense needs. In the meantime, God bless and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!